Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha, you are watching Perspective. Civil servants form the backbone of governance in our country. They shape policies, drive reforms and help build a better India. Celebrating their tireless efforts and contributions in empowering people and ensuring that you and I have a good life, the Government of India celebrates 21st of April every year as National Civil Services Day. 21st of April because it was on this day back in 1947 that Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the first Home Minister of independent India, addressed the probationary officers of administrative services at the Metcalf House in Delhi. In an inspiring speech, Sardar Patel referred to the civil servants as the steel frame of India, thereby serving as a reminder to reflect on their services and reaffirm their commitment to serving the citizens of India. Celebrating their hard work and commitment towards the progress and development of the country, the Civil Services Day highlights the transformative role of civil servants in nation building. Besides, the Prime Minister also confers the awards for excellence in public administration to government officials for their exceptional contributions. So in this edition of Perspective, we'll talk about the significance of the Civil Services Day, the transformational role being played by civil servants in propelling India to the status of a developed nation, how they're enhancing their work efficiency to achieve the desired goal, also how innovation and technology are transforming and strengthening governance at various levels. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome two distinguished guests to discuss about all these aspects. Mr. V. Srinivas, Secretary, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. Thank you, sir, for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV. Also delighted to welcome Mr. Amarjeet Sinha, former Secretary, Department of Rural Development. Thank you, sir. Delighted to have you with us on this broadcast as well. But before we begin this conversation, let's look at this video shared by the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances on the occasion of the 17th Civil Services Day.
हम है वो आईना जिसे देख कर देश संवरता है।
अब भारत को भरोसा है उन पर जो चूकते नहीं, जो थकते नहीं और जो हारते नहीं। जिन्हें साहस से परिणाम बदलना आता है, आज के देश को कल विकसित बनाना आता है। कोशिशों की तस्वीर में जीत का रंग भरने वाले ऐसे ही विजेताओं के विजय का उत्सव है प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स अवार्ड्स फॉर एक्सीलेंस इन पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन।
इस भरोसे का बहुत ठोस कारण है आज का भारत आने वाले 25 साल की इस 21वीं शताब्दी के लॉन्ग टर्म विजन को ध्यान में रखते हुए एक के बाद एक कदम उठा रहा है, व्यापक स्तर पर काम कर रहा है।
अब भारत को भरोसा है होलिस्टिक डेवलपमेंट के इन विजेताओं पर, जो सिर्फ मिसाल ही नहीं, हर अंधेरे को मिटाने वाली मशाल बने।
हम है वो आईना जिसे देख कर देश संवरता है।
हमने कभी जिंदगी में सोचा ही नहीं था हम ऐसे मकान में रह सकेंगे। अब हमारा भी एक पता है।
पीएम सूर्यग्रह मुफ्त बिजली योजना में सोलर लगाने के बाद एक तो लाइट का बिल खत्म हो गया है और ये फ्यूचर जनरेशन के लिए भी बहुत जरूरी है।
যেতিয়া মই PM চৌধুৰী লোনটো ললো, লোৱাৰ পিছত মই বস্তুখিনি ভাল বস্তু আনিছো, আপোনাৰ গ্ৰাহকবোৰ বহুত বাঢ়িছে।
अब भारत को भरोसा है तरक्की की नई पहुंच पर, नई उन्नति पर, नई ऊंचाइयों पर, जिसकी कहानी कह रहे हैं एस्पिरेशनल ब्लॉक्स प्रोग्राम के विजेता।
हम है वो रोशनी जिसे ओढ़ कर देश चमकता है।
हमारे हमारे स्कूल में जब से ICT लैब आया है तो हमें कंप्यूटर चलाना बहुत अच्छे से आ गया है और मैं अब ऑनलाइन और ऑफलाइन के सभी काम आराम से कर लेती हूँ.
ജലജീവൻ പദ്ധതി പ്രകാരം ഇപ്പോൾ എല്ലാവർക്കും വെള്ളം ലഭിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പോൾ എല്ലാവരുടെ കാര്യം ഭംഗിയായി നടക്കുന്നു.
भारत को अब भरोसा है इनोवेशन पर, जिसकी आभा एक नई आशा को नया रूप देती है, जो संभावनाओं को हर सरहद से आजाद करती है, जिसके उदाहरण हैं हमारे विजेता.
हमारे जागने का हौसला है ये, हमारी जीत की मंजिल गिराया है.
পোষণ ট্যাগারের মধ্যে আমাদের একটাই লক্ষ্য আছে, কোনো মা এবং শিশু যাতে ছুটে না যায়.
विश्वकर्मा स्कीम के जरिए हमारा हुनर ही हमारा सहारा बन गया.
यूके गेम्स ऐप आने के बाद सब कुछ ओपनली दिखता है, ट्रांसपेरेंसी बहुत ज़्यादा आ गई है और डिसीजन लेना काफ़ी आसान हो गया है.
শিক্ষা সেতু এপৰ দ্বাৰা ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীসকলৰ শৈক্ষিক নথিপত্ৰসমূহ এতিয়া ডিজিটেলি সংৰক্ষণ কৰাটো বহুত সহজ হৈ পৰিছে.
DG कक्षा में आने के बाद हमको पढ़ने में बहुत अच्छा लगता है और इधर आके मेरे सारे क्वेश्चंस आंसर हो जाते हैं.
ब्रेल से संबंधित मेरी जो भी समस्या होती है मैं सुगम्य पुस्तकालय में आके अपनी समस्या का समाधान करती हूँ.
अब भारत को भरोसा है इसे विकसित बनाने को, इसकी मिट्टी से किए हमारे वादों पर कि हम वो बीज बोकर रहेंगे, हम वो पेड़ उगा कर रहेंगे कि जिसकी डाली पर बैठने सोने की चिड़िया लौट आएगी.
हम हैं पतवार जिसे थामे वो तूफान से लड़ता है. हम हैं वो रोशनी जिसे ओढ़ कर देश चमकता है. हम हैं वो आईना जिसे देख कर देश संवरता है.
So this film highlights how the nation's development heavily depends on our civil servants and tireless efforts that they make towards ensuring a qualitative life for us citizens. That's what the Civil Services Day celebrates every year on the 21st of April. So the historical significance is something that we know about. But Mr. Sinha, coming to you first, as someone who has such an extensive experience, you've been a civil servant for decades. What does Civil Services Day mean to you? Also, how do you think the significance of this day has evolved over the years?
That's a very good question, because clearly if you look at India's trajectory of development, it does matter how civil service performs, because in many ways the political executive, both policy design as also implementation, the civil servants play a very important role. And recognizing this, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Sardar Patel, the kinds of challenges that they identified, and the fact that the Indian Constitution provided for protection to civil servants to be able to ensure absolutely fearless, absolutely fair and absolutely transparent conduct of governance. Now that kind of support definitely has helped over the years. At the time of independence, the kind of challenges that we faced, it's a time to recall that we had such absolutely eminent dignitaries, be it the transfer of power, be it the formulation of the first electoral role of an independent democratic India, be it the setting up of the community development bloc, be it the settlement of refugees after all the challenges at the time of independence. The civil servants played an outstanding role, and it's for that reason that the expectation is always high. Yes, thereafter as well, there have been contributions. We could have done a few things better. There have been periods where perhaps there's been a feeling that if India had opened up well before 1991, would things have been different? Or if the focus on primary education and primary health had been much stronger in our initial decades, would we also have moved forward like many of the Asian countries which did that and gained out of it?
Nevertheless, we are proud of where we are, and you've played a major role in bringing about that kind of transformation. So it's an honor for me actually to be sharing the screen space with you. We'll continue this discussion forward and talk about some of the initiatives that you took back in those days as per the context then. But Mr. Srinivas, coming now to the current context, and especially if I see it from the prism of the current reform-centric environment that India is in, and we are headed towards becoming a Viksit Bharat. That's what our goal is. What does Civil Services Day emphasize to you? How do you see the role, particularly of the young civil servants today, in helping build a Viksit Bharat?
The 17th Civil Services Day 2025 marks an occasion when civil servants rededicate themselves to the service of the nation. Right. And the theme of this year's Civil Services Day is Viksit Bharat, Holistic Development of India with focus on saturation approach. As you would recall, the Honorable Prime Minister had given a clarion call from the ramparts of Red Fort to achieve Viksit Bharat and implement the Panch Pran, which envisaged removal of colonial mindset to take pride in our roots and unity, and also instill a sense of duty amongst the citizens. Now, a whole of government approach has been envisaged to achieve this. The maximum governance, minimum government approach envisages a digitally transformed institution and a digitally empowered citizen. So, bringing government and citizens closer using technology is important for improving ease of living as also for ease of doing business. So, for us to become the third largest economy in the world in near future, it is important to upskill officers, and this is being envisaged using Mission Karma Yogi, and government models need constant monitoring through effective metrics. And of course, there is a deep commitment to the principles of social equity, justice, transparency and accountability. And the Prime Minister's awards for excellence in public administration have been restructured under the Honorable Prime Minister's direct supervision to achieve this objective of a Viksit Bharat with focus on holistic development across India's districts.
Okay, I'll take a related question. You know, every year we see a theme or a core message that Civil Services Day has for the country. Elaborate on the theme and the message that you have for the Civil Services Day 2025, which is the 17th Civil Services Day. Also, how is your department ensuring that every civil servant across the country embodies that message?
So, as I said, the theme for the 17th Civil Services Day 2025 is Viksit Bharat, Holistic Development of India with focus on saturation approach. Right. This is being undertaken by restructuring the Prime Minister's award scheme in a basis in which 12 priority sector programs are monitored through a category called Holistic Development of Districts. There is another category called the Aspirational Blocks program, in which multiple programs implemented under the Aspirational Block program are monitored and awards are being conferred. So, the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances is the nodal department in Government of India for the Civil Services Day celebrations. The DRPG collaborates with all ministries and departments of Government of India, all state governments and all district collectors in the implementation of the Prime Minister's award scheme for excellence in public administration, and also in curating the Civil Services Day event at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi, and also enables similar events being replicated in all state headquarters. Okay. So, further, there is massive knowledge dissemination through social media posts, media interactions and through documentation, particularly the regional conferences and through national good governance webinars.
Okay, Mr. Sinha, I'll come to you and understand, because it's the Viksit Bharat vision that we are all focusing on currently. The Civil Services Day in a way reflects on what the civil servants must do to propel us to the status of a developed nation. And in that context, because you've had the experience, you've been at the helm of designing some of the very impactful programs I read about, such as the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the National Rural Health Mission. if you look at the current context, India is in a very interesting phase of transformation, and we have a goal that we need to achieve by 2047. With our eyes on 2047 Viksit Bharat vision, what role do you see of the civil servants, particularly the young ones, who I can say have about 25-30 years in service? How do you see them becoming drivers of the transformation that we wish to see in the next 20-25 years?
Let me first say that I am really proud of the youngsters who are working in the field. Right. I say so because I have had the chance to visit almost all the districts of the country and to see young collectors give their best there. I have also been a part of the jury for the Governance Award given to collectors by the Indian Express newspaper, and there also we find some very good work happening in the field. The reason why it's important to take note of it, and Civil Services Day is a good day to celebrate some of those successes, because ultimately the tasks and challenges are daunting. Yes, there would be failures on the way, but there are successes as well. If I were to just mention about the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, whose design I had the opportunity to work on, almost all aspects of what will make the program work, from the designs of the houses in different regions of the country, to the costing, to the geotagging at every stage of the construction, to all electronic payments for beneficiaries, to follow up through the Gram Sabha and so on. So what came out very clearly, that if, as was mentioned by Srinivas, if we follow a whole of government, whole of society approach, where everybody is involved, where there is full transparency, where there is real-time monitoring with geotagging, we get results. A similar effort I had the occasion to lead in 2018, the Gram Swaraj Abhiyan, where the Honorable Prime Minister wanted 7 services to be provided to 63,974 of the most deprived villages of the country. The 7 services were the provision for Ujjwala gas connections to the eligible, the LED bulbs distribution, accident and life insurance, opening of Jan Dhan accounts, immunization and so on. The electricity connections to every household, eligible household. So, when you do things in that mode, where you try to build a movement for it with the frontline workers, with a center, state, local government partnership, the federal principle, civil society organizations, public sector, private sector units, when everyone comes together and teams together, the results are far superior. And there are lessons also for us, because what we have succeeded in doing in programs like Gram Swaraj Abhiyan, we need to do the same on learning outcomes in schools, on health outcomes from health facilities and interventions, on nutrition and better outcomes on nutrition, on livelihood diversification and so on. So clearly the lessons are there. We have to keep learning, we have to keep celebrating successes, we also have to keep analyzing what is not working out the way we wanted.
Absolutely, and that's where the reforms have been happening, Mr. Srinivas. This is one question that I wanted to ask you was, your department has been leading some major reforms in the area of governance towards ensuring, citizen-centric public delivery as well. How are these transforming the day-to-day life of the civil servants, if I may ask you?
Well, I must elaborate that under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, the governance landscape of India has changed radically in scale, scope and also in learning paradigms. India has succeeded in transforming technologically obsolete institutions into modern day digital institutions which benefit lakhs of Indians. Today, India's rural countryside has changed. We have banking correspondents, e-mitras, common service centers which have bridged the gap between the internet poor and the internet rich. As India celebrates its Amrit Kal, the Prime Minister has given a clarion call for adoption of next generation reforms by bridging the gap between government and citizens. So this vision of the Honorable Prime Minister for implementing next generation reforms is diligently translated into reality by the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. So we have undertaken major secretariat reforms, special campaigns focused at Swachhata and reducing pendency in government, benchmarking governance through the Good Governance Index, redressal of public grievances by adopting modern technology tools, and improving service delivery, in addition to recognizing meritocracy under the Prime Minister's award scheme, and also replicating several good governance practices across the length and breadth of India.
Would you also like to talk to us about the mission Karma Yogi? How is it shaping the ethos of the Indian bureaucrats, also enhancing their skill set, which is required to take us towards a Viksit Bharat?
The Mission Karma Yogi is an extremely ambitious program that envisages upskilling and reskilling lakhs of civil servants using the iGOT platform, and through a number of courses. It has functional competency modules, it also has behavioral competency modules, and I had recently attended the Rashtriya Karma Yogi Jan Seva program, which orients civil servants on behavioral skills, and what I found was, particularly in areas of team building, de-siloization, working towards institutions which are live, functional, vibrant governance institutions, the Mission Karma Yogi has had a tremendous impact. I have also seen section officers, under secretaries, assistant section officers undertaking huge number of programs, particularly on emerging technologies and how use of emerging technologies can improve their skills. So, across India there is a massive skill development movement that the Mission Karma Yogi has brought about, which is very visible, and the impact is widespread.
Okay, I'll now come to some of the challenges that Mr. Sinha you spoke about. Maybe, you said in history we could have done some things better which would have yielded in different kinds of results. But history has also taught us not to repeat mistakes, and perhaps when we are talking about transformation, when we are talking about giving our citizens a better life, the challenge here is that it's easier said than done because of the complexities in the larger geopolitical scenario as well. And at the forefront of these challenges are unfortunately the civil servants. How is there any moment in your career that you would like to share with us and our viewers about a very challenging moment, how you navigated through it, and how there must be a lesson for the younger bureaucrats on how to find an easier way out of these challenges?
No, there are many moments that we all go through,
yes,
but one particular one which gave us a lot of satisfaction. You've heard about the self-help groups, the rural livelihood mission, and women, the drone didis, the banking correspondent sakhis, and so on. While the program started in 2011, but the economic activity and the diversification of livelihoods from 25 million in 2014, we could take it to 100 million now. Now that journey had many challenges, but it's also an example of a social capital building program leading to large scale economic activity by women, and which is disproving many of the concepts that we had. For example, that women who are poor, if you lend to them, they may not return. The evidence is to the contrary. The poorest of women, the Jivika in Bihar, known by different names in different states, right, the women's collectives under the livelihood mission, the kinds of roles that they are doing, they are not only borrowing from banks, they are also paying back. They have one of the lowest non-performing assets. Now, the challenge there was at every stage, we had to create confidence in every department. For example, Srinivas mentioned about the banking correspondents. I still remember the initial days when we went to the Department of Financial Services to say that our women who have come out of poverty, they will become the BC Sakhis, they will become the banking correspondent. There was disbelief at that time, but today we have more than 150,000 such women providing banking services at the village level, seeking deposits and giving loans. The bank Sakhis, the Krishi Sakhis, the Pashu Sakhis. As you are aware, under the livelihood mission, our effort was to create heroes out of community people, give them the skill sets with which they could provide services to the people. A Pashu Sakhi can do immunization for animals. So a lot of that convergence of human resources, professionals at the cutting edge, and clearly the lesson was no challenge is insurmountable, but you need a framework where you allow civil society's partnership, where you build community cadres like the community resource person for enterprise, for bank sakhis, for Pashu Sakhi, for Krishi Sakhi and so on. Also, there are many more professionals you need at the field level, because the civil service originally was never mandated for this kind of role. It had more a public order, revenue role, regulation role. For it to adapt itself to the development challenge, it needs to recraft itself. Many skill sets which are ordinarily not in governments, they have to be brought in through professionals who are brought to the system. So clearly the lesson for us was, no challenge is impossible. The women have moved on and made a difference in the lives of people, but clearly decentralized community action with funds, functions and functionaries at local government level, with an accountable women's collectives to hold them responsible for the whatever is assigned to them, I think that is what will make the change. The citizen-centric civil service that we need for the years to come to become the developed India that we all dream of, we'll have to focus on human development, we'll have to focus a lot more on decentralized community action, on untied resources at the cutting edge level, so that village communities with professionals, with women's collectives, with oversight of everyone there, can actually create community institutions which deliver quality outcomes.
Okay, in the current context, Mr. Srinivas, if we have citizen-centric expectations, if we expect the community also to cooperate and work towards realizing the transformative goals that we have set for ourselves, how do we expect the civil servants, or if I may ask you, how is the department equipping the civil servants to maintain a people-first approach in their roles primarily?
The government's approach has been a nation first, citizen first approach, and in implementing this nation first, citizen first approach, the highest priority has been accorded to effective redressal of public grievances with focus on accessible, meaningful and timely redressal of public grievances. So there have been senior level reviews of the grievance redressal systems, and today the CP Grams portal, which is India's public grievance portal, is one of the world's largest citizen interface portals, and it has adopted the latest technology tools, and the timelines for grievance redressal have been brought down to 21 days. More than 30 lakh citizens have registered themselves on it, and in the last 5 years 1.2 crore public grievances have been redressed. The citizen satisfaction levels that we are witnessing in terms of the feedback call center data sets being collected are around 60 to 62%. So every effort has been made to bridge the gap between citizens and government in a transparent and accountable manner by adopting a timely, qualitative and effective grievance redressal mechanism.
Okay, now coming to the balance between sticking to our core values, at the same time modernizing the system. And I ask you this because you've seen both, when there was no technology to now technology driving that transformation. As we modernize the system through innovation, through use of technology and emerging technologies of different kinds, how important is it for us to at the same time maintain that balance and stick to our core values of integrity, of transparency, which the service is known for?
No, in fact, technology is a great resource. Technology as a means and technology as an end in itself. I would bat for technology as a means, because what we have found in programs after programs, the digital public infrastructure is an outstanding arrangement, but it works best when there is somebody to handhold at the last mile. The last mile doesn't happen by itself, it has to be made to happen, which means that every worker, every wage earner, every pension receiver, they all have to be part of that system, they have to be brought into that system, and it will not happen only by their efforts. They have to be facilitated, they have to be supported, it has to be ensured that there is no exclusion on account of lack of skills in a poor household. So clearly it's a big challenge, it has tremendous abilities to deliver, and I can say this because across all programs in the rural development, there was not 1 rupee we were transferring through a bank check. Every rupee went through the digital mode, and clearly whether it is wages for MGNREGS, whether it is money for housing, whether it is pensions under the National Social Assistance Program, whether it is monies for construction of roads in the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. We did not need to make use of checks at all. And I think that's the important learning, that clearly when every household has access to digital services, it needs both digital literacy, it needs hand-holding, and it also needs financial literacy. Because the ease of providing credit has improved manifold, but it also poses its own dangers. And we need to ensure that nobody unnecessarily gets trapped into a credit arrangement which is not in the interest of the consumer. So for ensuring all this, both digital literacy, the Reserve Bank of India has a large program of financial literacy, which the Rural Livelihood Mission is engaged in. I am sure that these things do make a difference, but the hand-holding at the last mile is what distinguishes successes and not so successful initiatives using technology. It has tremendous power and potential, and we must fully make use of it.
Okay, we are certainly making use of different kinds of technology when it comes to driving transformation now, Mr. Srinivas. But when it comes to hand-holding, that's very important. In that context, what is your department's priority, if I may ask, especially in the next decade or so? Because this is going to be the most defining period if we are to achieve our larger goal of making our country a developed nation.
A new India envisages civil servants as agents of change, striving for radical reforms and transformational governance.
Right.
So relentless pursuit of excellence can only be achieved through enormous amount of dedication and seriousness of purpose. I've seen Sri Amarjit Sinha ji, and I've served with him for over 2.5 decades now, and every time I was quite inspired by what he brought, the sheer commitment and dedication to governance models and constant process re-engineering. There are simply no shortcuts to success. Institutions tend to rise and fall with individuals. So as we look at decision making in the 21st century, which has become far more complex, it has to be based on robust data sets, and there is a need to examine data very closely and collate and analyze it for considered decision making.
Okay, to wrap up the conversation now, Mr. Sinha, because we have very little time left, in response to what he said about the challenges for a new India, what kind of mindset shift do you think is required, especially among the young civil servants or those maybe aspiring to enter the services, to adapt to the change that is happening, at the same time take us towards our larger vision of a developed nation?
They need to be more responsive. And I mean it in a very positive way. The times are changing. There is a feedback loop available to anybody who is using the social media or using any other digital or other modes of information. Now, if public information is there at large, it is for civil servants as well. The earlier you take note of it, the likelihood is the earlier you will resolve an emerging challenge which is coming your way. So if the moment we listen more, the moment we respond quicker, it creates goodwill with communities. And small little wins on the way is what ultimately leads to better outcomes at the end.
Okay, so that having been said, we'll have to wind up the program. Time allows me to take up only that much on this edition of Perspective. Thank you once again to both my guests for joining us for this quite an insightful, engaging conversation. And thank you to you viewers as well for your time. Wishing all our civil servants a very happy Civil Services Day.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.